Buenos Dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye up, bye up, bye. In a Menudo style of direct fashion, before we get into the content of the day, because I know you see that thumbnail and you're pretty interested, right? I would be too, man. It's a crazy story. But before we get into it, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I am kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support. We're going that way, not that way, right? We're going up. So, I told a story the other day about the chorro guy, right? The guy that shit all over the place. Sporty blood. And believe there was way more incidences that happened, but those are for a later date. But I wanted to talk about this kid that came in. He was a young Crip, right? He was a young Crip, man, and he got selled up with not his people. He got selled up with this big ass cat that was basically what you would consider a non-affiliated. Right? He was a black, he was a brother man, but he was non-affiliated. He wasn't a Kumi, he wasn't a Crip, he wasn't a Blood, he wasn't gang related. See, a lot of people think that automatically when you get incarcerated, you have to join a prison gang or you have to be involved with the group. That's not true, depending upon your ethnicity, right? When it comes to the brothers, they rock differently. Now, if you're a white boy and you get locked up, yes, you're going to be a wood, a skin, whatever it is, Holmes, you're going to rock. Whether you got racial tendencies on the streets or suicidal tendencies like the band, none of that matters. All that matters is you stick with your own race, your own people, and that's the way it's going down. If something happens, then it happens, and you better fucking be a part of it or you're going to be a part of something you don't want to be a part of, right? When it comes to Mexicanos, Chicanos, you have three different, things you could rock. If you're from Southern California, even if you're a resident, meaning that you're not gang affiliated, but you're from the Sur, then you're Southerner, period. You're a Southsider, Holmes, and you're going to rock with that group. And that's just the way it is. Or they're going to fucking have bad intentions and do bad things to you. Same thing with the Norteño, man. There's a lot of guys that are from Northern California that are non-affiliates. And, of course, they lean more towards the north just because of the city they're from. And that's just the way it is. It's a little bit different with Norteños. You have to pretty much become a Northerner, man. There's no such thing as residents or none of that. You either are or you're not. And then, of course, there's the paisas, people who are Mexican nationals or from Central America. They rock with the paisas. The paisas being kind of the group, man, that does their own thing. Of course, they do rock on the southern side. So if something does go down, more than likely they're going to join the southerners in that dance. And that's just how that is, right? So prison, the DNA of California prisons, the makeup of it is very racial and everybody's with their people. So this guy gets there. He's a non-affiliated black, pretty big, he had been there. And this young Crip comes in. Okay, this young Crip, I'm not going to say what hood he's from because I don't want anyone to take this as disrespect, but this is the honest to God truth, right? And this is just the way it went in and out and out and in and down when it came to him. So he comes in and he's flamboyant. And one thing I can tell you about the prison system is when you got your chest out like a peacock and you're trying to be someone you're not, more than likely you're not, right? And people recognize that right from the gate, and you're going to rub someone the wrong way, and then they're going to try to rub you a certain way. So the best thing to do is to go into prison, keep your fucking ears tucked, your head low, listen, and keep your mouth shut, man. And that's just the way that it's going to work out and benefit you. But when you go in there, and the first thing you want to do is get all tatted down and try to play a gangster role, well, real gangsters are in there, homie. And they're going to recognize that, and they're going to feel disrespected or feel some type of way because you're fucking with their pimping, right? You're fucking with their gangsterism. And basically, you're disrespecting them. So they're going to feel some certain way. So anyways, this young Crip goes in there, and he's from the LA area. And let me get this out there right now. There's two different types of Crips in California prisons. There's the LA Crips or Southern California Crips, San Diego, LA, IE, all that area. Anything past Bakersfield is considered the South. And then, of course, there's Northern Crips, NCs, Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto, Merced. Wherever they're from, you're not going to find too many Crips in the Bay Area. There are some, but very minimal. Mostly it's Kumi and just Bay Area cats. But anyways, this guy was from LA, so he was an LA Crip. But he was young, man, and I remember when he got there, he was going to be a problem. And his people recognized that, so they kind of fucking ostracized him, cast him to the side a little bit. I could see right from the gate, man, he wasn't getting the type of love or respect that most of the brothers was getting, right? They were all kicking it, chilling, and you would think he would be getting laced up, but they just didn't give a fuck about him. And that's what happens when you go in there trying to play the role and be hard and no one knows who you are. Your reputation doesn't precede you. then two things are going to happen. Either they're going to expect you to fucking ride it out, Holmes, and be a soldier in there and handle your business and earn your respect, or they're going to cast you to the side and be like, hey, this fool's a poop butt. He's trying to be too much, right? That's what they were leaning towards. There was a lot on this particular building that I was at. There was a lot of OG Crips, man, real ones from LA, as well as some NCs. And their car was tight, man. Very militant group, man. They were working out tough. They were busting down. They were doing their thing, right? For those of you that say, oh, the blacks don't do this and they allow this and that, then you ain't been around brothers and did some real time. Because real brothers on a 4-yard, man, function a certain type of way. Just like anyone else, it's a 180 and everyone can get stabbed. Facts. So anyways, this cat gets there and he's probably there about 2 weeks when I notice that they start to distance themselves from him. You know, he's no longer included in the spreads, or he's on the outside looking in. And even in the day room, man, he's sitting with the non-affiliates. So his cellie's the biggest fucking black dude on the whole yard, pretty much, right? He was a big dude, probably about a good 320, you know, and 6'5", just a big brother, right? He was non-affiliated, been around the block, big old beard, all gray and shit. He was an OG. Now, these type of OGs kind of stick to themselves, reading their books, educating their mind. They're lifers, more than likely, man. So they've been around, they've been through wars, they've been through the 80s, the 90s, guerra, when it really was cracking. So they know what it is. They know the politics. They're pretty cool with everyone. This guy had a lot of respect. Even being a non-affiliate, he just was an old school convict. And one thing I'll tell you about California prisons is old school convicts get the most respect, no matter where they're from. Because they've been through the bullshit. They know there's nothing you could tell them or show them they haven't already seen. Now, here's one thing I need to tell you as well. They also play the game differently. Not all of them, but there are a lot of guys that are lifers that have been around since, you know, the dark ages that go by a different policy. Let's just say that. They still, the wind's blowing? They still participate in shit that we would consider not great. They do chirijo things. Not all of them, but this guy did, right? So this guy just happened to be set up with this youngster, and I could tell he was probably educating this youngster in the beginning, telling him to calm down, relax. You know, if he's gonna be a Crip, Holmes, then there's a certain way to Crip. And even though he's not part of that, still, because his homeboys wasn't giving him the game, this youngster, they had already fucking been like, get away from me, bro. You're gonna cause us a wreck. And one thing about prison is when you have a youngster come in, or anybody who's trying to play that big bad role, Holmes, you're gonna cause your car a wreck. And nobody wants that. Everybody's got a program going. They want their visita. They want their commissary, their package. They're just trying to live, bro. That's what it is about prison. It ain't all about gang fights and selling drugs and all that shit happens. It's happening, right? You can't stop it. But the main thing that everybody wants is program. If they could just program and be able to do their thing, Humps, hey, you're going to have some fucking model citizens. They're going to be in that motherfucker living. Anyways, this cat was on the outside looking in. And what we didn't know what was going on in the cell was some horrific shit, right? This guy was being groomed and manipulated by Mark the Shark. I guess this big dude in there took a liking to him. Okay, now there's been plenty of situations where guys get turned out in prison. It happens, right? I haven't seen it happen too much in California prisons, but out of state, yes, it did happen. I've seen motherfuckers get turned out left and right. This guy in particular, I didn't see it coming with him just because he looked like he would fight. You know, he was quick to fucking take flight. Or so he said, right? But what happened was different. This situation was different where the Crips actually had to save him, right? And I was pretty confused on the situation, but this is how it went down. So this guy's in there getting groomed by a cellie. And what happens is I noticed that every time that we'd come out for day room or they do yard release, this youngster would come try to get at the cops. He was always in their ear, like talking to them and shit. And I would look at this one Crip that I was real cool with, man. He was from the 60s. Right? From neighborhood 60s in LA. He was a cool ass dude, OG. I used to look at him kind of like, damn, what's going on here? Because the way we felt on our side of the day room was, you know, you're not allowed to go get at a cop by yourself. You need someone to co-sign for you. You could be saying anything. You could be telling on the program what's going on. So the Northerners, we was getting a little leery of what's going on here, right? And we expected, of course, the brothers to clean up their shit, the Crips, not the Bloods, not the Kumis, man, but the Crips, right? And believe me, they would be the first to do that. They would, no hesitation. That's their get down. So these guys are looking at us. We're looking at them. Everyone's looking like, what the fuck? Why is this guy constantly going down? All right, the first couple times, give him a pass. He's young. He don't know. The second or third time, like, bro, is he telling on us, right? The fourth time, like, bro, stab him immediately, right? So, of course, the Crips pull him to the side and they're getting at him. They're letting him know, like, and it gets to be an argument, man. They're getting loud. They're like, hey, man, you can't be fucking fraternizing with the canine. You can't be getting at the cop, fool, right? But this fool's like, no, you don't understand. And he doesn't want to tell him the whole get down, but he's like, man, you don't understand. Now, meanwhile, his big ass celly, I used to call him cornbread, right? Comes walking down the tier, man, and he tells the celly, hey, come here. You don't need to talk to them guys. They don't give a fuck about you anyway. So, of course, the Crips jump up like, hey, OG, this don't involve you. Stay up out the way, right? And the OG is like, hey, look, you guys kicked him out the car, man. You know, he's with me now, right? But the way he said it wasn't like the way, it was a different way of saying it, right? He was like, he's with me now, right? You know, I took his cornbread and everything on that tray, right? So, of course, the Crips are kind of like, look, man, you know, you're either going to kick it with us or them. And he's like, nah, I'm trying to kick it with you guys. But there's some other guys that are like, man, fuck that dude. He's on his own, right? We're hearing some rumors. So, of course, me having the big ass ears that I have, I'm just playing my motherfucking space trying to listen, right? So what comes to pass and what had been happening was, I guess this guy was getting advantage, taking him from his celly, right? His celly turned him out. He was now what you would consider in prison a power bottom, right? He was he was doing some strange things for some change things, right? He was doing bad, right? So the brothers was kind of like, man, that's on you. I mean, you don't went that route. And he's like begging for help, like, please, man, help me. This guy, this is different, right? So here's how the story went. Not only did this guy turn him out, was making him do some extracurricular activities. They were in that motherfucker circuit training, right? Not only were they touching every part of that cell, but at the same time, this fool had become like infatuated with them. He thought he made this guy into like a prison wife, right? And the youngster, I guess he fell into the clutches of an eagle, right? So in the beginning, I guess he thought this guy was just trying to lace him up and look out for him. And, you know, they was in that motherfucking cell eating fat. And, you know, he was manipulating them. He was reeling them in. Oh, yeah, man, what you need on canteen? I got you, brother. You know what I'm saying? What you, honey buns? Oh, yeah, you ain't said a word, right? And then bam. So whatever. And little by little, he worked him out of what he twerked him out of. And that was that. So I guess in the beginning, he wasn't saying anything. So everything was all right? But eventually what happened was he gained a stalker. His cellie wanted to run his program inside and outside of that cell. He didn't want him to go to certain sides of the yard. He couldn't indulge in basketball. He wanted him to just sit there and work out with them all day so he'd get all sweaty and they go back to the cell and they could discuss some shit. Whatever was happening, you know, I wasn't that cucaracha on the wall to tell you play by play, but I could definitely imagine what was going on in there. I'm sure you can too, right? So one night it's quiet on the tier. What had happened was that two white boys had removed another white boy, right? They had removed him right there in the day room. They got off. And so they put all the whites on lockdown. So they shut program down. The whites were going to be on lockdown. It was just some in-house shit, right? A wood got there. I don't know. Tell you the truth, I don't know what happened. It could have been anything, right? But they fucking whacked them. They stabbed him, right? So that guy gets taken out on the stretcher. These two dudes get taken to the fucking oil. It was a fucking removal. And all the whites are automatically on lockdown and they shut the program down. And it's very quiet. Wheelers are flying. And that's what happens. Usually when something goes down like that, something serious, it's very quiet. Nobody wants to be loud. Nobody wants to be yelling out of the fucking cells, you know, unless you need something like, hey, it passed down a sopa. But nobody wants to yell because you don't want to draw no unwanted attention. So anyways, it was very quiet this night. And I remember usually in the building, there was a fucking a barrier, right, that separates. So, you know, and they did top tier, bottom tier program, all that, right? You could hear, you know, people discussing business and doing things. But as far as yelling and screaming, nah, that pretty much wasn't allowed, man. If you fucked up the program and you made the cops any type of mad where they wanted to keep us in the cell longer than they should, then there was going to be repercussions, man. 4 yards are serious. You know, anything can be taken as disrespect. You know, and the last thing you want to do is affect another fucking group's, you know, get down in their program. Now, of course, if you do a removal within your own and you handle your business, it is what it is. No one's going to speak on that because that's your guys' business and your politics. But man, you know, if you're doing knick-knack shit, screaming and yelling and drawing attention and the cops will feel a certain type of way and they know exactly what they're doing. They'll be like, hey, you know, they'll make you wait an extra half hour to open yard for yard release or whatever. That ain't cool. Motherfuckers start getting pissed because they want to call their old ladies. You know, they got shit going on. So anyways, fucking, it It was extra quiet this day, right? It's being real quiet on the tier. And I remember you could hear like a thud. Dum, 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 consistent. Dum, 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 said dum, dum, dum. Another one bites the dust. Oh, he was in there biting dust, perhaps. I don't know, right? But it's coming from 4 cells down, which I'm right here I'm right on by the corner, right? So you go there, a couple cells down, you could see almost into the cell, but not quite, right? And you can hear dum, dum. And this brother, man, he was a Kumi from Oakland. He yells down, y'all motherfuckers, stop fucking in there, right? And everyone starts laughing. You can hear people laughing. But at the same time, in the meantime, in between time, there's some serious shit going on in there, right? So all of a sudden you start hearing screaming, help, help. And look, to tell you the truth, it's the most horrifying thing to hear in prison. When you hear a person scream out for help, right? Whether they're getting fucking R'd up in that motherfucker or they're getting booked, it's the most eerie sound in prison. You know, to hear a grown man scream at the top of his lungs, he needs help, right? He was in there needing some help, bro. This dude was in there on some Night Stalker shit, some Richard Ramirez, right? He was in there, he snuck up all in his window, right? So whatever type of Wes Watson shit was going on in that cell, I can't call it, but it was all bad. So this dude was screaming. He screamed for like an hour, screamed so loud that the cops said, hey, what's going on? And then it quieted down. And then, dum, 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 round 2, right? Or which was probably like round 6 by now. It got ugly. So when they opened the yard in the morning, or they opened for breakfast, right? The whites were, of course, on lockdown. We went to chow, and I could see all the Crips together, man, and they were discussing something serious. And I figured they were discussing what happened that night before. That youngster didn't make it to chow, right? I don't think he could walk, right? The big dude came out. You know what I mean? He got to come out and get that coffee cake, right? Got to come out and get his coffee cake. That's off the top. He wasn't the one in trouble, right? If anything, he was smiling like a motherfucker. He looked like Cat Williams at the interview with fucking Shannon Sharp, right? Where he was being super serious and happy, you know? So as he came down the stairs, he's doing his thing. I could see all the Crips were walking to chow. They're looking pretty serious, right? So they came back. And we had day room, right? I remember they had shut yard down that day. They were trying to figure out if the white boys were going to go off in other buildings, man. That was a serious situation that had happened the day before. You know, dude got booked. And sometimes that keep everybody on lockdown for a few days until they investigate it and figure it out. But they didn't. So anyways, we're kicking back. And I see about 4 or 5 Crips start walking up because it's day room. But that youngster didn't come out. He hadn't been out since breakfast. Didn't come out to the day room. And the OG stood in there. Big boy, right? So they go up there and they're talking to him by the cell. And I remember the cops are like, get away from that cell door. But they keep talking to him. They're like, come out, right? So they're arguing back and forth with this big dude while the door pops, man. And they go in there and they're dragging. I'm thinking, oh shit, they're fucking up the big dude. But they weren't. They were trying to drag this young Crip out of there as he's getting held on like in Vogue by this big dude. No, don't take my bitch, right? Next thing you know, big old scuffle, little melee, man. Other Crips are running up there. Brothers is like, oh shit. The Bloods is like, oh, pow, bro, right? All kinds of shit's going down. In fact, Sporty Blood was there. Wasn't shitting on himself yet, right? This is pre-shit, but he was there too. He was like, what's going on, Blood, right? With his Dutch braids in. So anyways, bam. Boom, 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 boom. They start fucking up this big dude, right? This big dude's, he's big, man. So he's kicking fools, right? So this big ass Crip, man, the one I used to talk to from 60s, is hella cool. He runs up over there and just laying fool out. Boom, 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 boom. They're on him, cops spraying everyone, whatever, right? They break it up, right? So they take this youngster that's the celly because they think he was involved. They take the OG, they put him in cages, take him to the infirmary. And that's when the cops discover, man, this guy fucking, all right, look, I'm not racial, but I'm going to be real, right? So the brother was dark, right? He was dark-skinned. Okay, if you're light-skinned, I understand, but he was dark-skinned, so you wouldn't be able to see the bruises and the abrasions all over his body. This motherfucker had bruises from the tips of his toes all the way to the back of his earlobes, right? This Vato had bite marks all over him. This Vato would look like he was being whipped in that motherfucker. You know what I mean? That Vato had this towel and that motherfucker like, psh, right? He was giving him bad. This guy could barely walk out of his cell. They had to help him walk out of his cell. He was in that motherfucker getting he-manned and batterammed, right? It was all bad. So anyways, this kid doesn't tell though. You know, the cops are like, look, he has injuries consistent with, he has some abrasions on him. I'm just saying. Whatever, man. They go through their little investigation, put everyone in the hole for a little while. Some of the Crips don't come back, man. The OG one that I fucked with, he came back. You know what I mean? He had a little juice. The OG comes back, right? The OG comes back. And I'm thinking like, oh, fuck no, right? The OG walks in the building and rushes again, rushes the Crips. The Crips start fucking jumping on him, boom, 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 lockdown again, right? It's about maybe a month later when this youngster comes out of the hole. He didn't tell on no one. They put him in the hole because he wouldn't say nothing. They thought he was involved in the melee, right? They must have thought that a whole gang of motherfuckers ran in there and fucked him. I don't know. But anyways, this motherfucker comes out, right? And I remember the Crips pulled him to the side, man. And they, yes, look, people are going to not believe me. I don't care what you say, right? They brought him back in the fold. But I remember he was never the same, man. Eventually, he got transferred out of that prison. I don't know what happened, but they kind of looked out for him, man. So, yes, man, they saved him. They saved him from what could have been worse. And it happens all the time in prisons. Motherfuckers go in there and they just happen to get locked up and celled up with the chiruhu who takes a liking to him. But like I said, the reason why this story stood out to me the most, more than all the shit, is that this guy was like infatuated with them, bro. And I ain't never seen that in real life. I could tell you one other time, man, I was on a 50-50 yard facts. And there was this vato. He was a Southerner, right? Ex-Southerner. He was an ex-Southerner, right? Or actually, he was a Southerner, Holmes, but he's an ex-Southerner now, right? He was like, the Southerners didn't really fuck with him, like that. They were kind of just like, And this 50-50 yard I was on, it was non-active Southsiders, non-active Northerners. The whites and the blacks were active. And it was crazy, right? So anyways, they flipped it all the time. Eventually, it did become an S&Y yard, and they shipped people out and all kinds of shit. But anyways, this guy was still trying to play the active role, but he wasn't, man. And I remember they brought a chiruhu on the yard, or a guy that was known to have been a chiruhu in the fucking, and when I say chiruhu, he was gay, right? In reception. And they brought this dude, and this motherfucker followed this dude around the yard like a fucking puppy dog, Holmes. You know what I mean? It was weird, man. That's some of the things that you're going to see in prison that you're going to be like, oh, hell no, right? But it's just the reality of prison. It's not all about gangs and killing and crime, man. Sometimes it's about, that shit ain't right, right? It's that. Anyways, man, the LA Crips, man, they saved that dude from being an ultimate power bottom, man. And I'm sure he thinks his lucky stars, but not after the OG got his, right? And that's just how it be. So with that being said, I hope that you move with a purpose, get everything that you want coming. I hope you enjoyed the story. It's facts. It is what it is, man. Shit happens. That is another reminder why you don't go to prison and try to act cool and try to act tough, Humps. You need your gente. People talk down upon the politics and all that. And man, you guys over there in California, I hear a lot of people from out of state say, you guys play that racial and that politics shit so much. Well, man, sometimes you need your people. Imagine if everybody was on their own. Well, I'm a man. I could do that. Yeah, but when a 6'5", 320-pound man puts his motherfucking hands around your neck, shit be going down. With that being said, move smooth with a purpose. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I want to thank everyone, man. We reached 80K. That's definitely somewhere I wanted to reach. 100K next on the line. We got fish on the line. All right, let's make it happen, man. We're gonna stay on the grind. Thank you guys so much. Bang bang.